I'm Peg DeBoard. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters in South Tonka. Welcome to our second virtual Mayor's Forum. We are partnering with the Lake Minnetonka Cable Commission, who will be hosting and recording this event for distribution to the cities and to the League of Women Voters to put on our website. Here's a little bit about the League of Women Voters. The League of Women Voters is now in its 101st year. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization open to all genders ages 16 and older. Nonpartisan to the League of Women Voters means we neither support nor oppose political parties or candidates. The League believes that informed and engaged citizens are the cornerstone of democracy. As League members, we study a variety of issues and we help develop nonpartisan solutions. We then advocate for these positions at the local, state, and national levels. So tonight, each mayor will be able to give a state of their city. Will be a short presentation, and then from there we will be having League members ask questions that have been developed by League members as well as taken from community participants. The process for tonight: each mayor can take up to 4 minutes to give an overview of the highlights happening in their city. Then we will start with questions that have been developed by the League members and or submitted by the public. We will probably not get to all the questions that have been posed. Helping with questions tonight from the League of Women Voters South Tonka are Cheryl Lesser, who lives in Shorewood, and Sharon Murphy Garber, who lives in Deep Haven. The mayors with us tonight, we'd like to thank them for coming and participating. So with us tonight are Deb Kind, who is the mayor of Greenwood, Jennifer Labadie, who is the mayor of Shorewood, Lisa Whalen, mayor of Minnetonka, Todd Carlson, mayor of Excelsior, Paul Screedy, mayor of Deep Haven, and Adam Jennings, mayor of Tonka Bay. So with that, I'd like to start with Deb Kind, who is the mayor of Greenwood, to give her presentation.
And I've learned the quote of 2020 and 2021 is, "You're on mute." So I had to unmute myself first. Thanks to the League of Women Voters for hosting tonight's event. It's always fun. A year goes by very quickly. It's hard to believe that a year ago when we had this event, we were at the beginning of the pandemic, and it's been a full year now. So crazy, crazy stuff. 2021 is my 13th year as mayor of the beautiful city of Greenwood. Councilwoman Christy Conrad, Councilman Bill Cook, and I all ran unopposed in this past election. And it's a pleasure to serve with them and the rest of our council. We really have a good group. We met with our assessors on March 3rd, and Greenwood property values are increasing in this year. So this year, 2021, for taxes payable 2022, the average increase will be 6.3% for off-lake properties, 2.2% for lakeshore properties, 10.5% for condo properties. We will be having our local board of appeal on April 7th, no, April 8th. And the deadline to get on the roster is April 2nd. So any Greenwoodians who want to appeal their property values, those are your deadlines. Infrastructure wise, our roads are in pretty good shape. We will partner with Shorewood to rehabilitate St. Albans Bay Road, and we will partner with Excelsior when it comes time to do the bridge. Those projects continue to be put off into the future, which is probably a good thing. Along with Mayor Carlson, Mayor Labadie, and Mayor Jennings, I serve on the Police Coordinating Committee. Chief Meehan is our Emergency Management Director for the 4 cities, and he's been doing a great job of maintaining our critical services during this time. On March 20th, as I said, it's hard to believe, it's almost a year ago, I issued a statement of determination to allow Greenwood to conduct meetings electronically, and we've been doing so ever since. It looks like we'll be able to resume in-person meetings soon, and I'm looking forward to that. Although I do like the convenience of Zoom, but it'll be nice to see humans in person again. Other than conducting our meetings via Zoom, we really haven't had much effect on city business from the pandemic. Our residents drop off items in a drop box at City Hall, and we do business by email very well, phone and email. So it hasn't affected our city business too much. With the exception of the old log, Greenwood businesses appear to be doing okay during the pandemic. We supported the old log by dramatically reducing their liquor license. And it's exciting that the old log will be opening up in October 2nd. They are planning to open with a show called The Play That Goes Wrong. It sounds good, and I encourage everyone to support the old log and all of our local businesses as we emerge from the pandemic. I saw I had the 20-second mark, so I'll quickly sneak in that our biggest news is that Deep Haven notified us that they would no longer provide public works and planning and zoning services for Greenwood effective January 1 of this year. So we have scrambled to, I should say scrambled, they gave us lots of notice, and we are now contracting with private contractors for public works and planning and zoning, in addition to direct contracts with Minnetonka and then Excelsior for our clerk storage and meeting space. The transition's gone well, but I have to say the move out of Deep Haven City Hall was a very, very sad day. And we really appreciate the wonderful service we received from Deep Haven over the years. That's it. How did I do, Peg?
You did great. Thank you. Okay, Mayor Carlson, you're up next. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Good evening, everyone. My name is Todd Carlson. I'm the mayor for the city of Excelsior. I serve on council with council members Jennifer Carone, Councilmember Dale Kirshner, Councilmember Lou Durkin, and Councilmember Ann Hirschman. My message to our residents coming into the spring here has been one really of trying to be positive and hopeful. As Mayor Kind referenced, it's been 1 year since we, had the signs installed on Water Street that said shelter in place. And it's just so nice now to hopefully be coming out of that very quickly. I'm really proud of our city and proud of the residents. I've mentioned that in the recent letter that I did to the community for just, I think, the way we responded to each other and to our businesses in 2020. We're coming out of the pandemic still with our AAA bond rating, which is one of the highest ratings. It is the highest rating you can get. And we're one of the few communities in the state that have that rating. And I'm really proud of that. But what I'm proud of is the work that we've done to shore up and make sure we've had solid finances to help, bridge with some of the other cities, the Chamber of Commerce, similar to, as Deb mentioned, in Greenwood. We were able to reduce liquor licenses for some of our businesses, respond by eliminating parking maintenance fees in the common lots that we share, and refunding a number of fees to businesses, churches, and some of the local organizations. So I was really proud of the work that we did in 2020. We also were able to move the city and the community forward with some major infrastructure projects. We finished our project over in the Glencoe area. We also finished a major road reconstruction and sewer water infrastructure project in George Street, Westlake, and Lafayette in our community. And that's really, I think, some of the messaging that as we talk about going into 2021 that we're looking to really carry forward. We've got additional road infrastructure projects in 3 different parts of our city for 2021. And again, really a lot of great work by our Public Works Department and our city staff to ensure that we're continuing to move forward. The city has had infrastructure needs, really over the course of the last few years. And I think as a council and a community, we've been trying to respond to those. So I also really want to highlight, and I didn't mention earlier, but it relates to infrastructure is the commons. And we're really excited about the Pavilion Project that we have going in this year. The Pavilion Project, we broke ground on it actually back a few weeks ago. It just happened to be that week when it was, I think, 20 below zero or 10 below zero. We were all out there, but we're excited for that project. We're hoping to have that project completed in time for the 4th of July. And, if we're able to get past the restrictions and emergency declarations, we're hoping to be able to have some type of community event again, certainly for the entire South Lake Minnetonka area for the 4th of July. So excited about that. We're also, as it relates to the Commons, looking to undertake a concession stand project. That's going to be the next project that we start to evaluate. We're looking for additional projects, having discussions around parking and our use of our parking lots. And I think the next major discussion that we'll have really relates to our city hall. And if you've been to Excelsior and the city hall and the city offices, you'll know that we've got some work that we need to do there. So we're excited about undertaking that. I'd just like to invite any of the residents, anybody that wants to weigh in. You know, our city council meets the first and third Monday of every month. We start at 5:30 with our work sessions and meet at then a regular session at 6:30. And we also are starting to hold special strategy sessions once a quarter. And our next one will be held on Saturday morning, March 27th from 9 until noon. So again, really proud of all the work that our community's done. Really proud of my council and my staff, and I look forward to participating with the other mayors. I really want to say thank you to the other mayors in the South Lake. I think we are working well together, and you always have, you know, an open line to me and my commitment to try to do the best we can for the entire group here in the South Lake. So thank you for that.
Next up is Mayor Whalen from Minnetonka.
So I'm Lisa Whalen. I'm the mayor of Minnetonka. I was reelected in this past November. It was a very contentious and contested election period. So I'm glad we're past that. We have 2 new council members that were elected in November, Ann McGregor and Kathleen Refkin. We have 2 existing council members still seated, and that's Pam Mortensen and John Chumperlin. So with the, I have a lot of experience. I was on the council previously for 12 years, and I've served as a city, as the mayor for Minnetonka for 6 years. So 18 years has given me a different perspective and a lot of knowledge. And with that, I'm excited still to be serving and looking forward to the next 4 years. We've had our challenges in Minnetonka over the last year, obviously with COVID. We did close our city hall for a while, and there was no in-person business being conducted. We reopened then after we were able to implement some strategies. We reopened in July, I believe it was. We still conduct all of our meetings via Zoom or via GoToMeeting, so virtually. And some of the things that we've accomplished in spite of COVID over the past year, we did a number of road projects, major infrastructure, reconstruction or reclamation projects on our roads, and some mill and overlays. And we also continued with our water tower. So we will eventually, very soon this fall, we will have 3 water towers in Minnetonka. We are on track and on budget for our 3rd one, which will be up and running again, like I said, this fall. One of the big issues during the elections that we kind of came across and people mentioned is Minnetonka has a very large area. We're 31 plus square miles. And if you didn't know this already, we are actually the largest city on Lake Minnetonka. I bet some of you didn't know that. In fact, we are geographically larger than Minnetonka. So that does create challenges. Much of our area is rural still. And so we have areas that are actually what's considered unserved and areas that are underserved with broadband. So that's going to be, and it has been, one of our top priorities for this year. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we've had to cancel some of our events that we normally host, but hopefully we will be able to do that again this year later on as we progress in 2021. One of the things that we've done and continue to do is keep in contact with our residents via our website, our Facebook and Twitter, and also our mayor's blog that we started last year, and also our snail mail newsletter. So we do still try and connect with our residents via those venues, and we hope to be adding back the venues that we weren't able to do last year, such as Trista event, possibly this September, and then also our annual city bus tour. The other thing that I like to encourage people to do is check in and view us on our website on YouTube. You can listen to the city council meetings live, or you can also check it out later at your own convenience on our YouTube channel on our website. That's pretty much it.
Thank you, Mayor Whalen. Next up is Mayor Labadie from Shorewood.
Okay, thanks for having me this evening. Thanks to the League of Women Voters for putting this on, and Chris for helping us out with the filming. My name is Jennifer Labadie, and I'm the newly elected mayor of the city of Shorewood. Recently, with the assistance of Travis and Chris from the LMCC, I filmed a State of the City address. This can be found on our city website. It's a lengthy video, and I won't touch on the same points here this evening. Tonight, I'd like to highlight the following issues. First, the status of the construction in the Minnetonka Country Club and building permits that were issued in the city of Shorewood in 2020. Second, Shorewood's tax levy information. And third, projects completed in 2020 and projects planned for 2021. Status of construction in the Minnetonka Country Club and building permits in 2020. There are currently 142 lots in the Minnetonka Country Club, and only 22 remain open. In 2020, the value of new construction in the city of Shorewood was $48,400,000. The city of Shorewood issued 44 building permits for new construction in 2020, and 24 of those permits were for homes in the Minnetonka Country Club, which means 20 were for locations elsewhere in the city. Shorewood's tax levy information. The city council unanimously adopted the 2021 general fund operating budget and approved the property tax levy collectible in May and October 2021. For 2021, the city of Shorewood increased its property tax levy by 2%. However, the tax impact to homeowners may be less than the 2% increase of the total levy. This is because in recent years, the overall property tax of a home located in Shorewood has increased at a faster rate than the Shorewood property tax levy, resulting in a slower decline of the local tax rate. Projects completed in 2020 and projects planned for 2021. The Enchanted Island and Shady Island street mill and overlay projects were both completed in 2020. A complete overhaul of Badger Park located by Shorewood City Hall occurred in 2020, which includes a new playground, shelter, bathrooms, and walking trails throughout the park. A tennis court surface complete with pickleball striping will be completed this spring. The city plans to have a grand opening ribbon cutting ceremony in June in Badger Park. The date is still to be determined and could be altered based on COVID restrictions. The Woodside Road, Woodside Lane, Kathleen Court street reconstruction project included the installation of water mains. It was started in 2020, and after a final bituminous course is installed in 2021, the project will be complete. The Glen Omley Manitou street reconstruction will commence in 2021. The city will perform approximately $2 million in mill and overlay work on numerous city streets, and a complete list of the city streets scheduled for mill and overlay in 2021 can be found on our city website. In 2021, we will begin work on the Smithtown Stormwater Pond Project, Shorewood Oaks Drainage Project, and the Grant Street Drainage Project. Some of these projects are described in further detail, and they're highlighted in the previously recorded statement found on the city website. Thank you.
Thank you. So next up is Mayor Jennings from Tonka Bay.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, everybody. I want to thank the League for putting this together. I think this is an extremely important opportunity for us to come together and talk about things. And certainly, I think the nonpartisan aspect of it is extremely important because it allows everybody just to kind of take a clear, even view of things and weigh them as they see fit based on their merits. I'm really excited about this upcoming year. Essentially, we've got a new council. I'm a new mayor. I've been at it for about 2 months now. And then we've got a couple new council members that have just been elected, Kristen Vigor and Tim Connolly. And they are joining forces with Bill LaBelle, who's a longtime veteran, and Jeff Anderson as well, who's been on for a number of years. So it's kind of this good mix of like both old and new blood. And I think we're going to be able to do a lot of really good things with the city. Certainly, as Todd was alluding to as well, I think just the general tenor of working with the other cities, we're in a really good spot right now, and that just makes me excited about things. That being said, we just recently finished up a refurbishment of our water treatment facility this past year. There were a few final things that we needed to take care of. There was some bonding that occurred, and that was a fairly significant project for us as a city. We also then finished up our refurbishment of our water tower just in the past few months. If some of you have driven by, you'll see that we have a new logo on the side of it that looks pretty good. But this segues into kind of the next things that we need to get done. Essentially, it's imperative, and I think by far the number one largest priority for the city this year is to try and replace our main water line. We had a significant influx of breaks that started to occur just in these last couple of years. We'd have 23 since February of 2019. And when that happens, we have residents that lose all of their water. We've heard stories, of individuals that, they're trying to get ready for work in the morning and suddenly they're just completely without. In some cases, I think the worst case scenario we had was someone who was in mid shower with shampoo in their hair, no water. So we have got to do something about this. I did testify with Representative Morrison this past Tuesday in order to try and garner some state funding to help us with that project. We're also planning on paying for half of it as a city. We just need to try and get it done as soon as possible. In addition to that, we're starting to focus, or we want to focus more largely on our parks. We really feel like we have an opportunity to kind of take them to the next level. So we've had one of our council members really spearhead that for us, and we really want to try and make it more of a centerpiece of the city. So that's something that we continue to push forward. And likewise, if we can do anything in conjunction with that to make County Road 19 more walkable and pedestrian friendly, that would always be great. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. So the theme of the tonight for me is going to be to try and be bold, be brief, and be gone. So with that, all residents, you're welcome to join us every second and fourth Tuesday of the month. Always open to hearing from residents. My cell phone number, if you want to take it down, 612-965-1488. Would love to hear from you. And that's it. Thank you.
And thank you. Next up is Mayor Screedy from Deep Haven.
Paul Screedy, Mayor of Deep Haven, re-elected. I've finished 18 years. When I get done with this term, it'll be 20, and I think that's probably should be enough. Kent and Steve were also re-elected, so we've got some pretty good blood in the council room. We've managed to get a few projects started, which anything of any size is so difficult out here because in our particular city, 60% of the council turns over theoretically every 2 years. So to put a 5 or a 10-year plan together, by the time you get to that point, everybody's different. So we feel real lucky that this year we're going to hopefully put together a project that's Park Committee wanted. Bathrooms down at the beach, the main beach in Deep Haven. Resounding success when we built the warming house up in Thorpe. And so we thought, well, we'll just keep going on that. We're meeting next week. Location's probably going to be down around Park Avenue, or some of you might call that the launch over to the yacht club. The other one that we're going to try to get done is the bridge, the North Home Bridge, we call it. It's over near the Parkway, just north of the main beach. Bridges Parkway and all of our peninsula called North Home. Oldest unrepaired bridge in Hennepin County. So we're kind of excited about the fact that we're going to be able to get to do that. Last year was good for us. we kept our beaches open. We were able to have lifeguards. We had a lot of people that if they didn't want to be out and among other people, they stayed home. But those that did want to get out and recreate, felt very lucky that we didn't shut any of that down. We don't have a lot of businesses, and so we didn't have any issues there that some of the other people had. We restricted the number of parking permits last year just because we thought that we might be the only spot on this side of the lake that people want to go to. We're not going to have that problem again this year. City Hall has been closed. We're going to open it as soon as the remaining staff have been vaccinated. I didn't know any other way to do it to make sure that those kids be able to take care of themselves. But Jimmy Lundberg over at the LMCC helped us with our Zoom. We now have blended meetings, and so we do Zoom like this, but we also have people in attendance physically at City Hall. It's worked out very, very well. We don't have that many people visiting the chambers during regular times. So the only thing that we have as a caveat is that if the crowd looks big, we're trying not to have any hot issues so that we've got 150 people sitting outside. And if as long as we've got that going, I think we'll be fine with that. Exciting stuff that happened. We were letting kids play hockey at the new rink up in Thorpe, and when they decided that they needed to warm up, they used the bathroom that we have up there, and that was so nice and cozy that they actually phoned in and ordered pizza. So we've had our first pizza party in the bathroom up at Thorpe. Should have seen the delivery man trying to match the address because there's nothing else there. That was kind of fun. We had some residents that built a carousel out on Lake Minnetonka. I don't know if you saw any of that, but I'm going to guess it was over 50 foot in diameter. The entire circle cut out of the ice, put a trolling motor on one end of it, and the thing just went around like a carousel and drew a whole bunch of people. This is what we did to get rid of cabin fever, and I think that they should be applauded for their ingenuity. We've done over $3 million worth of road repair and stormwater projects in the last 2 years. We're hoping that that'll continue. We've already got good bids for this year, and rather than bore you with the rest, I'll live up to the fact that I'll be brief. Thanks a lot.
So next up, we'll be having questions provided by the League of Women Voters as well as community members. And so first up is Sharon Murphy-Garber from Deep Haven. And so Sharon, would you like to start with the questions?
Sure. I'm going to ask some questions about pandemic. What has been the impact of the pandemic on your city?
I'll start. Just, I'm not going to say the entire impact, but one thing that COVID impacted the city of Shorewood was it caused us to have to upgrade our technology. We were basically forced to implement different methods to allow our staff to work from home effectively, to be able to do Zoom meetings just like the rest of you. And moving forward, we're going to be doing what Mayor Screedy said, a blended Zoom in person. None of that would have ever improved or been carried out at the rate that it was had it not been for COVID. And one result of this has been our regular council meetings have about double the amount of residents, if not triple, than we used to have pre-pandemic, pre-Zoom meetings, which is why we're going to go ahead with the hybrid method. So that's one thing that impacted our city, was just being forced to upgrade our technology at a faster rate than we had anticipated doing it. But it was a positive result. So thank you.
Yeah, if I could just weigh in too, I would second those comments from Mayor Labadie. Is, I think when I look at COVID and the pandemic, and certainly there were a lot of major impacts. Lives were turned upside down, impacts to students, and I mean, I don't mean to minimize it, but when I look at the pandemic, I look at the good that came out of it, and I try to put it in a positive way. And I would second Mayor Labadie's comments as well. Is I think it speeded up change for our city on a couple of fronts. One is the technology piece. We're also going to try to incorporate some type of hybrid, service for the community going forward. Two, I think it got us closer, quite honestly, to our businesses and certainly closer to the Chamber of Commerce. I think coming out of it, we've got a stronger relationship, certainly with the Chamber of Commerce, I think, than we've ever had, and really appreciate the work that Jen Weiss has been doing on behalf of the Chamber. And I would also say that we talk about our businesses. There were impacts, but I think most of our businesses came through it pretty well. And by that, I mean, we adapted, we changed parking, we changed ordinances to allow outdoor seating. We encouraged people to shop local. We tried to support however we could, whether it was reducing liquor licenses, as we mentioned earlier, refunding fees. So again, I don't mean to minimize any of the impacts because I know there were severe for people on a number of fronts, but I'd like to focus on the good that came out. And I think, we're emerging stronger as a community coming into 2021.
Yeah, I would actually play off of that as well. What Mayor Carlson was saying. I think what was really remarkable to see was how we came together as a community. Truly, it was nice to see people come out and support Joey Novas in Tonka Bay. But, most of us are part of either a police or a fire district as well. And I just need to commend the incredible work that both our police and fire did as first responders, adapting to what was going on. I think they did right by us. In serving us as a community, but the reciprocation of that as well. I think the community really came together and they were appreciative of that support and commended as well. But they've done an outstanding job supporting all of us in that.
How has the pandemic affected your city's budget?
I'll start. We don't have a lot of businesses in Minnetonka, and especially we have virtually no retail businesses. So we are affected far less than probably some cities in the state that rely heavily on sales taxes. It really hasn't affected our budget very much. Last year, we did receive about 99.5% of our levy revenues. So that's pretty much on par. The other thing is that we issued 153 new home permits last year, probably more than all of the other cities that we're talking about tonight combined. And what that does and what it has done for our city is we've increased our market value significantly. So any budget increases that we've had have been offset by the increase in value in the new homes that have come online. So that's been good for our residents. It's not to say that our residents haven't been impacted. I'm sure all of them in some fashion have been in some way. I'll just leave it at that.
I'll say, like, strictly from a city perspective, for Tonka Bay anyway, if you take both police and fire, that represents about 51% of our overall operating budget in any given year. And I think there was a lot of overtime that was being worked last spring. Certainly in all the uncertainty that was going on, the shortages in hand sanitizer, just the panic in general, the influx of calls that they were receiving. But the one thing I would say is we as a city were not impacted that much. The Trump administration passed a robust federal package, and I think that made its way down to the cities. And a lot of that money we were able to pass that on to our first responders, and that really helped kind of stabilize things for us because it does make such a large percentage of our overall budget. It really could have hit us quite hard, and it frankly it didn't.
If the city has changed, which some of you have mentioned, with your technology and some other things, with policies or practices, do you envision these remaining or being reversed due to what was going on with the pandemic?
I think that we learned how to work a little smarter. We went through 600 and some odd building permits of various types, all the way from new construction down to electrical, all done with a drop-off box at the back door at the second level of City Hall. The ladies inside managed to get out all the utility stuff done. We've done parking permitters. People have found out that the drop box out in the parking lot actually does work. You don't have to come up and tell everybody whether you're feeling good or not. So I think we've become more efficient. I think the staff has trimmed that part of the operation down, and I am hoping that stays. That being said, the blended Zoom meeting, I think, is going to be probably the thing of the future. I don't know when this other pandemic thing is going to go away, but I think we have found that we also get a little more viewership during the meetings themselves, not necessarily participation, but I can see the names and the faces on the screen. So people are tuning in to see what we've done here in town. I suppose pandemic related, but we really didn't get affected that much by it. We had 67 cases in Deep Haven as of December, 6 deaths. Nothing in Deep Haven Woods really at that point in time. So we feel like we dodged a few bullets.
I know for some that you have restaurants, gyms, retailers. How has that affected each city, and have you been able to help support them?
Yeah, I'll just weigh in. I think I mentioned it in my opening statements for the city of Excelsior. Yeah, we tried to support however we could, but I also need to call out, some of the support that we received through CARES funding and the CARES Act. That was absolutely critical to our community. It was also allowed us as a council and a staff to place some bets, as related to, funding and, trying to make some policy changes, to address what was going on with the COVID pandemic. So, for our restaurants, I think, the restaurants, really pivoted quite quickly with COVID. I do want to say, again, compliments to our staff. We were one of the first communities to petition the governor when COVID first started to allow the takeout and carry out of alcohol with meals. And, I had one of my restaurants, make the comment to me that just by simply doing that, they were able to hire 3 to 4 people back. So, that was one example for our restaurants. Some of our retailers, I was really encouraged, this last year during, the small business weekend, prior to just after Black Friday and prior to Cyber Monday, Excelsior was very, very busy. And I know a lot of our businesses, again, appreciated the local support. I do know, from talking to some of the business owners, definitely there were impacts. But again, I think we only had, if I remember from my conversation with Jen Weiss, I think we only had one business that went out of business in the city last year. So really, I think a lot of good work, that was done in the community, but I also really need to give credit to the residents. I need to give credit to the businesses and the business owners for adapting and for changing and for doing what they did to make sure they stayed successful.
I agree. I mean, I get emails from a lot of the businesses, and they were so creative, which is really nice. And I think Jen has worked really well through the chamber with the businesses too, and keeping them together and whatever. So that's been nice.
Yeah, but I'm going to make one quick PSA announcement because I see 2 of the chamber members on and a business owner. Yeah, Jen, we've called you out earlier. Really a terrific job for not only Excelsior, but I think for this entire South Lake. And then Bill Damberg, great work at Brightwater. You're a continued supporter of the community, and I know you've got your pulse on what's going on. And I appreciate the things that you've shared within the community as well. So thank you.
Another actually pandemic related question from the faith community is, there's been an increased need for food assistance in the local community and an even greater increase in need for rental, mortgage, and utilities assistance. So as the eviction moratorium comes to an end, the prevention of homelessness will be an increasing challenge. Do any of the cities individually or as a group have plans for helping with rental, mortgage, or utility assistance?
I'll weigh in real quick here. So what the city of Minnetonka did is we used some of our COVID relief dollars and donated to We Can and to our local food shelf. And We Can is the Western Action. Anyhow, they help with rental assistance and emergency funding for families. So that's one of the things that we did. I don't know going forward how much more we'll be doing, but that's one step in the right direction.
I think part of this too is you highlight an extremely important issue. I think the concern for Tonka Bay is that you know, a lot of this doesn't come up to the city level. And I'll be honest, I'm not aware of any plans that we have. You know, I think most of what we focus on is variance requests on large homes that are being built. And certainly I know one of the questions that's probably going to come up later is affordable housing. And it gets to be really tough because our city it's largely built out. And I think the way the equations are set up, even both at the federal and the Met Council levels, it's in order for something to be affordable, quote, it's a definition of, if I remember this correctly, it's like a certain percentage of the overall mean value of the other homes in the area. And the home values here are so high that even if we were to discount those, it's still an extremely expensive home. So it's hard to kind of address these things. You know, certainly our city has given to We Can, and we will continue to do so in the future. You know, because one of those things about poverty is it tends to have this way of hiding in the shadows. And I was really, really surprised when shortly after I moved here in one of my first council meetings that we had, I think it was either 12 or 15 families that were on assistance. So it's out there. And to your point, I think it's probably incumbent upon me as mayor to seek these things out and see how much of a need we actually have.
Sharon, we're probably ready to move to the next topic.
Yep. This is more about, I'm going to switch out of the pandemic, thank you, to more political, not parties or whatever, but ranked choice voting. I know I was a poll worker, and that was it was more college kids who came in were asking us about that and why we didn't have that in Deep Haven. So do you support ranked choice voting? And do you think cities should be able to do that system if they'd like to try it?
We don't have a need for that in the city of Deep Haven, if that was the people that asked you the question. And it's actually more difficult to find candidates to run than it is to find how to rank them 1 through 3 if you're lucky enough to get them in. So we have not looked at it whatsoever, Sharon, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you know, I think you find the same thing at Tonka Bay. It's oftentimes we have a single candidate that runs for mayor. If not, at most, we have 2. That being said, I mean, philosophically, I think it's a fantastic idea. I think what it helps to do is address a lot of the polarization that we find in our politics today, because rather than have candidates try to address and speak to the far end extremes of either one of their parties, they have to think about the fact that there's an opportunity for them. And if anything, they're incumbent to try and address a wider audience, I think, which helps moderate some of those voices. And there's good and there's bad in that. So I can see both sides of it, but I think by and large, especially with the tenor of things over the last several years, anything that we can do to try and make the conversation more calm would be good.
Yeah, the city of Shorewood, the most interest we've had in local elections actually was when I was elected mayor. I still had 2 years left on my council term. So my seat went vacant, and we had 9 applicants for that council seat, but that wasn't an election. That was an application process. The election for 2 vacant seats, which occurred the November right before this, we had 3 applicants for the 2 seats. So as far as the ranked choice voting, we have had residents who are very involved in different organizations relating to ranked choice voting express an interest in this. And what I have done is invited them to give a presentation to council and mayor at our council meeting on April 12th. So that presentation will be happening. Several residents are going to, provide handouts, provide information, and then council may or may not direct staff to look into this further, but we're definitely hearing an interest in it from our residents. The city hasn't taken an official position on it yet, though. Thanks.
I'll just quickly weigh in. We're in the same boat as Deep Haven and Tonka Bay. We're lucky if we can get 3 people to run for 3 seats, which is what happened this past election. So it seems like a silly exercise for us to go through to do ranked choice voting.
Yeah, and we haven't addressed it yet in Excelsior.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, it was more younger that were asking, but I think it's because they knew more residents that, because some of them in school live in Minneapolis and so they have friends. It's a bigger city. So I just set out, ask, the city, but I can't imagine that we would do that. We're not big enough. Anyway, now I'd like to move on to one other area. This is about redistricting, since that's a big hot topic these days. Are the cities involved in conversations regarding the census and redistricting?
If I can just speak from Excelsior, not yet. We haven't had anybody reach out or have those discussions. I do know it's in the background. It is being discussed at, I think, a larger level. Certainly statewide, and you certainly hear the conversation nationally, but nothing for locally here that I'm aware of in Excelsior.
Okay. I'll agree with Mayor Carlson. The city of Shorewood, we haven't discussed this beyond the possibility of new population signs when you enter the city of Shorewood, reflecting the number. Beyond that, it really hasn't come up yet, and we're not involved at a larger level.
Okay. That's what we didn't know. We thought we'd ask. Some people were asking, like, are the cities involved or not?
Sharon, we're having a hard enough time sharing 2 zip codes.
I know.
331 in Excelsior and 391 in Wayzata. I think if I had to draw another line through town, other than if I were going to name it 501c3, I have no idea how else we could split this town up, seriously. But it's a good question.
Cheryl, do you want to go on to public safety?
How does each city assure that their law enforcement personnel are trained on the appropriate use of force?
I'll start out if that's okay. So first of all, the city of Minnetonka, we have our own police department, and we also service the city of St. Bonifacius. And we have in our budget over $14,000 for training. And it includes, and we have for many years, our officers train for use of force, implementing and how it should be done properly. But we also have a lot of other training. However, the state of Minnesota also requires officers in every police department to conduct and have certain training. And we use the League of Minnesota Cities as one of our venues for training. They have a fabulous online and also interactive training sessions. We do training for implicit bias. We do training for also mental health, which is also a very important training aspect, and as well as use of force. So those are some of the things that we do in our police department. I'm sure that other police departments do that as well.
I know that Chief Meehan, this is extremely high in his priority list, and I'm sure the other cities would agree with me. He's been keeping us abreast of the steps that he's been taking to follow up on the changes that have been made in the statutes over these over this past year. I think one of those was implemented last fall, and then the other one went into effect here just recently, if not this month, last month. And so use of force is definitely something that's high of mind for everyone. My understanding is that we have what's called the gold standard of training in our district, because we do more of it than what's actually required by the state statutes. And I'll throw in as well, just prior to this, I actually was pursuing my post certification with the thought of possibly becoming a sheriff's deputy. So just this past fall, I was going through the training, and I was extremely impressed with the candid and open conversations that we were having about everything that had happened in Minneapolis and the use of force and the proper way to apply it and when to apply it. And I not only found it refreshing that the instruction is heading that direction, But honestly, all of the young men and women that are out there that are stepping forward to serve the community, I'm extremely confident that they're all doing it for the right reasons, and that made me feel very good about the future. And I think we're making the right steps. That's not to say that we haven't done things incorrectly in the past and we can't do them better now, but I think we're headed in the right direction.
I'll just add one other bit. I've been in communication with Chief Meehan about our upcoming coordinated committee agenda. I have the honor of chairing the South Lake Minnetonka Police Department Coordinating Committee this year. And on our agenda will be a discussion about sharing an embedded social worker for mental health calls. And I'm really excited about that. And I think it's really, really important aspect of law enforcement to deal with mental health crises. I don't know the exact statistics, but it's at least half of the calls that our officers respond to are related to someone has a mental health issue. So really important. Look for that on our April agenda.
Deb, just so you know, Minnetonka is also looking, or our police chief will be bringing some information back to the council regarding that as well. I think if that happens, we would be participating with other area police forces on that issue, which is, I agree, very important.
I
Thank
believe
you.
there are 7 agencies that will be cooperating on this if we are in. So cool, innovative stuff coming. So.
And I'll just piggyback on what Mayor Jennings and Mayor Kind have already said. Shorewood is part of the JPA South Lakes Police Department, along with those mayors and Excelsior. I just want to highlight that, like Mayor Jennings said, we have the gold standard, which means we exceed the basic amount that is required. I just want to highlight some areas: conflict mediation, implicit bias training, crisis intervention training. Those are all areas that the SLMPD department receives training at the gold standard level. Thank you.
Yeah, and last from Excelsior, just to add, I think we've got one of the best police chiefs and best public safety forces, whether it's police or fire, in the South Lake. And I just wish the community, could see some of the letters we get, because there's so much negative news and press. But we get, behind the scenes, we get letters of examples of the work that the South Lake Minnetonka Police Department is doing, and some of the work that the fire department is doing. And there's just terrific examples that, unfortunately, don't make the news or don't get shared, with instances where they go above and beyond, or they've defused a situation, or they've helped somebody on a call where it wasn't the original purpose of the call. So I think really terrific work, and I'm pleased to be part of the coordinating committee with Mayor Jennings, Labadie, and Kind.
Question on the topic of public safety. Highway 19, what are we, so do we have any plans, any discussions on handling the increased traffic on Highway 19, especially in the country club and Tonka Bay areas? And then I think we mentioned in the introductions about pedestrian and safety, and I'd also add bicycle safety. What are the kinds of discussions happening right now?
I'll start off with that, because that impacts Shorewood and Shorewood residents. Prior to the COVID pandemic, when people were still traveling to work, to school, we didn't meet traffic counts to justify a stoplight or even a roundabout at that intersection. So we did form a traffic committee made of residents of the city of Shorewood that looked at several corridors, including that intersection. The committee kind of went on hold after the start of the construction of the country club development, and then the pandemic hit. So we are discussing about possibly reinstating our traffic committee to look at this, but look at it after traffic has started back to its normal flow. So it has been discussed by Shorewood, both at the city level and at the resident level. Plans were started, brainstorm level, that's it. And we plan to continue on sometime.
Yeah, for Tonka Bay as well, it's something that we're going to continue to keep our eye on. One of the things I forgot to mention in my intro was we're excited about the Dorn project that's going in because of the 85 new units that we're getting right in that area. I certainly was concerned about the inflow or influx in additional traffic at the time because I have to drop my kids off at Excelsior Elementary every day, and traffic can get really thick. One thing that I think is interesting, or we should keep in mind, is that a few things. One, traffic's just going to get busier out here because we're growing in the West. I think housing and things are continuing to push their way out into Victoria and beyond. So 7's going to start to get heavier. Certainly with the project specific in Tonka Bay, even when the traffic study, when they came back and had taken a closer look at things, they had assured us that because of the additional units that are being built, because half of the shopping center had to be torn down in order to create those units, it's almost a break even on how much traffic we're losing because of the commercial activity that's going away, being replaced by essentially residential parking and traffic. So that's not to say that it couldn't get worse. And I agree. I think it's something that we need to keep an eye on. As priority one, we have all these breaks. We've got public works individuals that are on or County Road 19 all the time. I get worried that they might get hit. So it's something that we definitely need to keep on our radar going forward.
Okay, and then just to follow up, one final question about bicycle safety on Highway 19 and the roads and trails. Are there conversations about bicycle pedestrian safety?
I will jump in. I'm talking a lot tonight. I know there was a time even before me that about putting in a bridge over County Road 19. And that's kind of a concerted effort, I think, probably between Shorewood and Tonka Bay and Three Rivers and the county, because it's a county road. I think we got really close last time, and I would love to rekindle that conversation. Now, granted, I think it's going to take some time to maybe get something like that put through. But from my standpoint, I think that's something that we can get done. I also think as a region, we really should try and figure out a way to make County Road 19 more pedestrian friendly, just with the amount of traffic that's coming through, the fact that it's getting busier. We have a lot of cyclists. And certainly I know as my children grow older, I want them to be able to easily access downtown Excelsior. And in order to do that, I want them to be able to get to the trails as safely as possible. And the only way to do that is to create a safe pathway between here and the trail system that links into them.
Okay,
The city of Shorewood's also concerned about bike safety and pedestrian safety. As you know, we put our trail along Smithtown Road quite successfully. We will not in 2021, but in the future, it is slotted when we redo Strawberry Lane. We will include a trail going all the way up right into the doors of Minnetonka Elementary. That won't happen in 2021, but recently, like Mayor Jennings, I also testified in front of the Capital Improvement Committee. Representative Kelly Morrison sponsored a bill on behalf of the city of Shorewood for funding for a Galpin Lake trail that's kind of more over on closer to like where Minnesota Inboard is on Highway 7. The reason we approached the state with that is because that strip of land has a trail on the Chanhassen end that ends exactly where the Shorewood line starts. And for Shorewood to connect into their trail, then we're taking it up to the State Highway 7, and hopefully we can get people into Excelsior, to school, to the Excelsior businesses. So we were dealing with the city of Chanhassen and Carver County, the city of Shorewood and Hennepin County, and a State Highway 7 and connecting into County Road 19. So because of all the players involved with that project, Representative Morrison sponsored this bill on our behalf because we do think it's appropriate for state funding. So we have a lot of roads all throughout the South Lake area that are simply too dangerous for pedestrians or bicyclists, but all of us have to stay within our budgets and take them piece by piece at a time. And at this point, Shorewood is focusing on that Galpin Lake Trail.
Yeah, from Excelsior, if I could just weigh in real quick. First of all, to Mayor Jennings, you have our support for the trail crossing at 19 regarding the bridge. And I think I had that conversation with your predecessor, but I think Mayor Labadie brings up a good point. It goes beyond 19. I highlight, our county road Mill. We've got Powers Boulevard, Mill Avenue that connects Excelsior through Shorewood into Chanhassen. And that's another example of, as Mayor Labadie just mentioned, getting a number of different organizations, government agencies involved. And we just had the new Hennepin County Commissioner, Chris Latondras, at our meeting this past Monday. And I was just very clear with him, the expectation, in any of these thoroughfares that, Mill Powers is a gateway, it's a gateway into Excelsior. And my expectation is the residents that live on that road should have the same expectations as those living on a residential street in terms of speed and safety. And it's my hope that working with Shorewood and certainly with Chanhassen, we can get some type of trail, bicycle safety, pedestrian improvements, that really will really limit speed and reduce pressure in that area, and then ultimately connect, have some type of trail system that does connect to the Three Rivers Park Trail without having to cross, either at 5 corners or cross a busy Mill Boulevard, which is, very dangerous at certain times of the day. So it's a concern, I think, for most of us here in the area.
What are you doing to ensure that you have a safe place for all races in your city? Such a hot topic these days.
I'll jump out on this one too. Again, it's an extremely important topic. I think as a nation, it's something that we're really focusing on more closely than we have in a long time, and we need to, quite frankly. But I think I'll come out and I'll say, I've actually said this a number of times, living in Tonka Bay is very much like living in Mayberry. There's not a lot that happens here. And I think to some degree, we actually sort of embody what white privilege is. We're fairly homogenous. We're fairly sheltered. We don't have a whole lot that's going on. And so it's very easy for us, out of sight, out of mind. So as a community, certainly me personally, I think it's just incumbent upon us to focus on these things and think about them, just try and think outside our bounds. But it's one of those things where we're largely, as a community in this city, we're shielded from a lot of these things. I'm not justifying it either. I'm just.
Oh, I understand that. No, I know what you're saying. So yeah, we do. My kids, when they went off to college, all said, Mom, we live in a bubble. Yep, we do. We pay high taxes to live in the bubble we live in. So yes, but it is much more, we have a more diverse community and our schools are getting more diverse. So I think that's where some of the questions are coming. Anybody else?
I'll just jump in here real quick. I think diversity and it starts kind of with our own personal philosophies. And I think as leaders, we need to have the right philosophy, and that is inclusion. And how we get there or how we demonstrate that can be in many different ways. But I think we need to educate ourselves about the issues. And then we also need to immerse ourselves outside of our bubble. And I think that's a key, because we do live in a bubble out here. But when I was growing up at some of my formative years, I lived in a community that was multiracial. And I think it really impacts your vision on things, future in life. But I also had the opportunity to do a lot of traveling around the world. And when you see different countries, you see different social, economic statuses and different ways of life. You really come to appreciate and see things a little differently when you come back to your own community. And I think for leaders in this day and age, that's really important. So I would encourage everybody to take a different look and take a different view, either through travel, through educational seminars, through workshops, reading, whatever you can to really enlighten yourself.
I actually want to circle back real quickly because I know the question originated kind of around schools and the increasing diversity that we are seeing. The one thing I would say, both of my children, they go to Excelsior Elementary, and while this is more school district driven, I have to really commend what the school district is doing based on the topics that I see my kids come home and talk about, because they're really trying to focus on these things. And one of our concerns, frankly, when we moved here was our children's interaction with diversity, because frankly, we were a little worried that this is a very homogenous, I mean, are we going to raise someone in a bubble who doesn't comprehend the world at large? And, but the school is doing a fantastic job. So the longer I live here, the less I have that fear.
It's good to hear. I mean, I do a lot with the schools and I agree. And we just talked about next year's plans for the diversity and inclusion. So I think it's interesting, you know.
One aspect of diversity and inclusion that sometimes gets overlooked is our LGBTQ community. And as I campaigned around the city, I made it very known to numerous residents that I'm extremely LGBTQ friendly, to reach out to me if they had concerns or problems. And numerous residents have reached out to me with various issues that I then assisted and pointed them in the right direction, whether it was with someone with the school district or the chief of police of the SLMPD, Mike Meehan, who is extremely willing to hear people's issues, to make sure that their voice is heard, and to deal with what they may perceive as a problem. So I've gotten nothing but great response from both our chief, our fire and police chief, as well as various individuals in the school district as these LGBTQ issues have come up in our city.
Thank you. Anybody else want to weigh in? I know it can be a touchy subject. I know it's kind of a powdered keg, and as we have the trial in Minneapolis, we don't know how that can affect us, because who would have thought that Ridgedale would be boarded up, but you know, it does come out to our area. So, you know, and some of the kids do feel it, you know, and we want everybody to feel welcome and feel okay. So that's important. Is there, if something occurs, and I think, Jennifer, you kind of alluded to it, if there is something, an incident occurs and you involve law enforcement personnel and people of color, race, or gender identification, I mean, is there something that you guys, as all the mayors, may be working on something like that? Or do you do that individually per city?
You know, I'll address it since you spoke to me.
Yeah.
The specific issue I'm talking about, keep in mind, I've only been a mayor a couple of months.
Right. Yeah.
And this specific issue I felt was more appropriate to take directly to the police chief rather than include the board or
Yeah.
other mayors.
Yeah.
And the manner in which the chief handled it, I just commend him and his whole department so highly. So going ahead in the future, I don't know. I think it would have to be handled on a case by case or incident by incident basis.
Yeah.
We have a question from the community, and this is probably for Mayor Carlson, but they're interested in what is being developed where the old band shell was. So if
Yeah,
you could
absolutely.
provide an update on that, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure can. And absolutely. Thank you for the question. With the commons are certainly our Commons Park, 13-acre park that's been as part of the city since the city was founded in 1853. What I love about the commons is that depending on the day you go or the event you go, the commons means different things to different people, and it can be different every time you go, right? One night you can go for 4th of July and there's 10,000 people there. The next day or Wednesday night, you can go for concert in the commons and it transforms into a concert venue. You can come back, Thursday morning and have a picnic, or on Saturday have a soccer game. And that's the beauty about the commons. I think it just means different things to different people every time you go. And what we're trying to do in our community, again, I talked about it at the beginning, we consider the Commons Park to be a treasure and a resource, but it's also a key piece of infrastructure in our community. And we've partnered with a conservatory called Community for the Commons, working with the city. We're working through master plan development right now. And part of that plan, we've come up with a number of joint projects that we'd like to tackle. And the first is the Pavilion Project. And that's a project I referenced that we just broke ground on in February. We hope to have the pavilion completed in time for the 4th of July. And I really hope the community in the South Lake area are going to enjoy it. I think you're going to find it's a project that's going to fit into the natural landscape of the area. It's going to be unobtrusive, and it's, again, going to mean different things to different people. It's also intended to be a lot more versatile than the original bandshell was. And I know, we've had a lot of folks in the community that are upset that we unfortunately tore that down. But at the end of the day, we're trying to make it accessible for everybody to use, make it multi-purpose for not only concerts, but movies. But we're also putting, because of the concept, the open concept, you can have events off the back side of it, smaller events like weddings, photo shoots. So we're real excited about that. And again, I mentioned as part of a broader master park improvement plan, we've got additional projects that we have slated that we'll be talking about in the upcoming years. Certainly, concession stand by the baseball diamond is up for discussion. We need new restrooms and infrastructure by our beach. We've talked about creating a boardwalk that would actually get folks off the sidewalk and off Lake Street and around, walking them out around the entire park. So I think lots of fun to come. But again, our intent is to try to keep it passive and try to minimize any impacts that, or minimize the impacts of any improvements we make in that area.
Can I add to that, please?
Please.
Thank you. I appreciate your input on that and all your mayors for their hard work, and particularly Mayor Carlson and the city of Excelsior for helping to save all the businesses except one so far. And the idea of takeout drinks, I think, is really helping the restaurants. I do have a little complaint. My barber on 2nd Street says that all of a sudden these signs went up for the pay parking in front of his barber shop.
I've talked to your barber.
He told me that he wasn't notified, and businesses near him were not notified before those signs went up. And he would like perhaps some consideration before 5 p.m. On weekdays where, his customers could park there without cost, or, limited parking on that street.
Yeah, absolutely. I've talked to your barber. I've talked to the owner of the coin shop next door. And what he's referring to is at a recent council meeting on March 1st, the council approved temporary test for additional parking, additional parking measures on 2nd Street and 3rd Street. And again, I think it's common knowledge in Excelsior, we're a small town. We don't get a lot of state revenue, so we need to try to generate revenue however we can. And the method to do that in one way is certainly parking revenue. But to your point, anytime you do something, there are consequences, and sometimes unintended consequences. And that is, from my conversation with your barber, as well as the owner of the coin store, as well as an order from one of the restaurants, with some of the impacts that we're hearing. We're going to take that conversation back up at our special strategy session on March 27th, which is a Saturday from 9 to noon. And that's exactly some of the things we've talked about. Do we have the ability to provide free parking for the first 30 minutes or for the first hour? Do we have the ability to, on that stretch, where your barbershop is, is declare that, a free parking zone for 30 minutes. So we're looking at a number of different things to try to minimize the impacts to our businesses there. But it's a difficult balance, and that's simply what we're trying to do, is try to find some balance.
I hope you will appreciate his point of view and the other business people there.
You bet.
Good to
Thank you.
hear too, because
Thank
that's the barber as well. So
Yeah, I unfortunately don't need a barber anymore.
How do you determine the criteria for approving variances that are consistently applied, especially when people and developers buy lots that are too small for the homes that they want to construct? Does anyone want to take a whack at that one?
yeah, I'll jump in on that one. Especially with Tonka Bay, we are historically, we're like an old cabin community, and we have all of these non-conforming lots. I mean, they're either extremely small or they're weird shapes. And it's tough to, frankly, to kind of build anything on them because ultimately what drives kind of the initial code anyway comes from the state. So there are these conforming rules that we as a city have to follow. And what we find is that when you apply those to virtually any one of the lots that we have in the city, everybody's no one's conforming, like virtually. It's just everyone has to apply for a variance of some kind or another. The approach that we've taken as a city is that we have taken a closer look at things and worked with our city engineer and city planner to try and come up with, setbacks that are more reasonable. And we ask questions about, all right, if we are doing this, is it still in line with the community? And we take a particularly close look at hardcover because that has a lot to do with the health of the lake and things like that. So generally speaking, even though we don't necessarily hit the bogey, hardcover is a perfect example for us. What we like to see is there some sort of improvement being made here? So, for example, if someone has 50% hardcover and they want to rebuild a home, can they bring that down to 40% and then also put in some sort of remediation on the lot? And that's a good thing for us. And we really have to kind of take a look at things on a case-by-case basis. And it's tough, but I know as a city, we take a close look. And I also know that the residents oftentimes put a great deal of effort into working with their architects to find something that really works and conforms. And there's a lot of stuff we reject. And we rejected a pool just last week. It was like, no, too close to the lake, doesn't work, not going to happen. So yeah, it's not straightforward, I guess, is the punchline.
And Mayor Carlson, I don't know if you want to just speak for a little bit about the residential review process ordinance.
Yeah, I was just going to jump in on that. And again, just a follow up on Mayor Jennings' comments. We get a lot of variances, of course, and I always, we're in a council meeting, have to remind folks that variances aren't always bad. I mean, there's a lot of good that comes out of variances, and I think, as Mayor Jennings mentioned, you measure each one on a case-by-case basis. I think over the course of the last few years, certainly Excelsior has been kind of ground zero for a lot of the residential development discussion. I'm really proud of the council, our council this past year, to try to address some of that. We put in place what we called a residential review process. With that, we hired a city architect. With that, we established a set of good neighbor guidelines, and we also established a process that any tear down or any new development that's being proposed needs to be reviewed by the city architect, by the city planner, and by our planning commission. With that, those plans, those proposed developments need to be held up against the good neighbor guidelines as it relates to do they provide enough green space, blue space, is the mass and scale right? How does it fit in with the neighborhood and the community where it's being proposed to be built? And then lastly, it goes through the process. And again, it's a new process. We've only, I think, had a couple of projects go through. I've been told it's a little bit clunky right now, but we're trying to refine it. What I'm just really proud of is the fact that though we have established a process and tried to take the burden off of of our city staff and have a number of sets of eyes looking at projects that are being built. So we'll wait and see where it goes, but I'm proud of the work that was done to put that in place.
I'll follow up with you. Mayor Carlson kind of rattled something in my brain that made me think. Another thing that we try to do too is we try to maximize real estate values for all the residents in the city. And part of that is to also maximize the enjoyment of the lake. I think the lake is first and foremost probably one of the primary reasons that a lot of folks live out here. So we've tried to tackle some things as well that frankly also are clunky, with vegetation and things, because we don't want people moving in on the lake, building a bunch of big gates, putting up a lot of shrubbery, and then everyone else who's on the inside is just blocked from the view. So we're always trying to be cognizant of that as a community as a whole.
I was just going to tell you that we are in the middle of evaluating this. I think our R3 residential district is for lot sizes of 20,000 feet and less, 20,000 square feet and less. And last week we started the first meeting and discussion on that. We're going to try to come up with a footprint that fits, that makes sure that we don't deviate from side yard setbacks, front yard setback, rear yard setback. And we've already determined, based on square footage of the property, the maximum height that we will allow. So we're starting to get a handle on it. We're just working a little bit harder. It does look like hardcover becomes an issue when you're looking on a 7,500 square foot lot or 10,000 square foot lot. So that's the part we're working through now at this point.
This is kind of related and yet unrelated, but the city of Shorewood is kind of going through our entire city code and reviewing the ordinances. And rather than doing that cover to cover, we're reviewing them as hot topics come up, and we're cleaning up language that may be conflicting within our own code sections, and cleaning up old antiquated concepts with more modern language. And I think it will improve the way that we can treat variance requests and other requests more uniformly by cleaning up our code. So that's one way the city of Shorewood is addressing it.
I'll chime in one more thought. Greenwood recently revised our code. So properties are regulated based on lot size as opposed to a one size fits all. Everybody has to have a 15-foot side yard setback, which doesn't work at all on our teeny tiny lots. And we've got, like many of the other lake cities, got a big mishmash of lot sizes. And I would say it's working pretty well to have this lot size ordinance, so to speak, in reducing the amount of variances that we see, or at least the severity of the variance requests.
Question from the community regarding the lack of affordable housing. There seems to be nowhere where in our 7 cities for a single teacher with 2 children to be able to afford a home. Is there any movement towards more affordable housing in our area?
Maybe I should jump in, since we're the developing community here tonight. Like I said, we issued 153 new home permits. Of course, that's in addition to all the other permits. But having said that, the problem that we have out here is our land is very expensive, and to build out here is also expensive. And so it's difficult without some type of subsidies from the county or the state or the city to build affordable housing. We do have in our city, in our Woodland Cove development, we do have some more reasonably priced townhomes that are online. And so, but I don't know if they would really qualify as affordable housing. But if if developers come out here to build, they would need some kind of subsidies, and we're just not in a position to subsidize that with our tax dollars. So it would have to come from the state, the Met Council, or the county to do that.
We discussed this at our Dorn project that came through. And Tonka Bay is largely built out. I mean, so there's not a whole lot that we can do because we're not developing. We're basically fully developed at this point. But this kind of gets back to the point that I addressed briefly. And to some degree, we need to kind of put this back on those agencies that are providing the subsidies, if that's the direction that they want to go, then how do they best calculate that? You know, because I could see where here, if you have a median home value that's $600,000, but you want to provide an affordable purchase price and you subsidize that by 50%, it's still a $300,000 home, which I don't think really speaks to the spirit of what it is that we're trying to do. Because I think all that does is make it less expensive for white collar, you know, middle management up and comer to live close to the lake. And I don't think that's what we're going for. And it's a pickle. I think it's something that we got to take a closer look at, because it's affecting more than just us. I mean, it's everywhere. Prices are skyrocketing right now, and got people living in camps over in the cities. So yeah, it's something that is, as a society, we need to embrace.
Yeah, quickly from Excelsior, you know, I'll just weigh in. You know, that's been, I think, one of the challenges that, you know, we've kind of posed to staff and to the council, you know, internally, is what can we do to help? And, you know, it's been alluded to, you know, we're a small community, less than, you know, a mile long. And when you've got land, you know, just to buy the plot of land at $500,000, I mean, you just can't play, right? But there are things that we can try to do, and that's, you know, what we're exploring. You know, I referenced, you know, potential city hall project earlier on. You know, we just had a presentation at our meeting on Monday night from an architect and an organization where one of the potential proposals, and again, we're way early in the process, but what they brought forward was a project that actually the city would design. We would specify the spaces we need, or what we would like for town office, city offices. And then we would add on the back end of that, the proposal that we saw was you could have 36 artist lofts and basically turn, you know, not only a city government office, but have it run in conjunction with a kind of an art studio, artist loft type of location that would have very strict requirements in terms of people that would be able to rent those spaces. They would need to be, you know, artists. They would need to have some type of business. But again, early in the discussion, but that's our challenge, right? That's our challenge as leaders, is to try to find solutions. You know, I do say in Excelsior, 61% of our housing stock is apartments. So, you know, we do have a lot of apartment living within our community, but as it relates to affordable housing, difficult to do, and the challenge we need to try to embrace going forward.
I'll just make one more quick comment, is that with affordable housing, you also need good public transportation, and we are sorely lacking public transportation, especially out here in the very western side of Hennepin County. I think it's very, very difficult to have affordable housing when you don't have good public transportation. That's beside the dollar amount, but that does play into the issue as well.
Yeah, really good point.
So we've kind of come to the end of our questions for tonight, but I guess I'll open it up as if there's anyone of the mayors who has a final comment that they would like to make, feel free to do that now.
All I'll say is I think tonight I failed because I was bold, but I was not necessarily brief.
That's your first time. We'll give it to you.
I'd like to formally challenge all the mayors. The city of Shorewood has entered a new contest. It's called the Whalen National Mayor's Challenge for Water Conservation. And the LMCC, with the assistance of Travis and Chris again, we produced a commercial which will be posted on our city website soon. It's a way that the mayors from all around the country challenge their residents to do a series of pledges to help conserve water, bring awareness to water conservation. And it's things as simple as like pledging to take shorter showers, pledging to not water your lawn on days it's raining. So it's a way that we're going to attempt to interact with our residents and see where we stand. The challenge actually occurs in the month of April. So you want your residents to sign up in the month of April, and then the city that has the most residents per capita sign up wins, and they're divided into different categories. So the link to that will be on our website, or Whalen National Mayor Challenge.
I'll just make my final comment is, I want to say thank you to the league. And again, thank you to each of the mayors that are participating this evening. It's a pleasure to serve with you. For any residents that are watching or have tuned in tonight, just the invitation is always to reach out, right? I mean, we're all public servants. I'm not going to speak for everybody here, but certainly for the city of Excelsior, if you have an issue, if you have a concern, reach out. We're always happy to listen. We're trying to do our best. Maybe, as you heard earlier tonight with the parking, do we get everything right? Maybe not, but you have our commitment to listen and try to do what's right for the community. So again, thank you for allowing certainly the city of Excelsior to participate. And again, thank you to my fellow mayors for all your support in the South Lake.
I'll just say thank you as well. And this is a good demonstration as to how diverse all of our communities are, and yet we have a lot in common. And that commonality can help us be better mayors. And I've learned a lot this evening. Some wonderful, great ideas that you've shared, and I really appreciate it. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you again for all of your participation. I know you kind of get the same questions over and over again sometimes, but I think that the answers you're coming up with are like way better on point, and they're more collaborative. So I think that's really what really impresses me about all of you and how you represent your cities. So the collaboration, I think, is really outstanding. And I think that you're all really trying to do the best you can for the people that you serve. Thanks again. I always appreciate seeing all of you. I think it's really fun to, even though it's once a year, it's always fun to see everybody and what you're up to. So thank you again from the league.